welcome back to another reading of Hoot. We're going to be reading chapter 4 today, and we are joined by our giraffe, of course, Diego. He never misses a read aloud. Got my nice blanket from Mexico, and I got a coffee mug that I picked up in Montana at a lodge called the Silver Gate Inn. This is in Silver Gate, Montana, just outside of the northeast entrance of Yellowstone. I can't help but think that Roy may have been to this cabin while he lived in Montana for that short period of time. Let's figure out what happens in chapter 4. Roy's mother made him stay home all weekend to make sure that there was no delayed reaction to the golf ball bonking. Though his head felt fine, he didn't sleep well either Saturday or Sunday night. On the way to school Monday morning, his mother asked what was bothering him. Roy said it was nothing, which wasn't true. He was worried about what would happen when Dana Matheson caught up with him. But Dana was nowhere to be seen. Called in sick, Garrett reported. He claimed to have inside information, owing to his mother's high-ranking position as a guidance counselor. Dude, what'd you do to that poor guy? I heard there was guts all over the bus. That's not true. I heard you pounded him so hard, his nose got knocked up to his forehead. I heard he'll need plastic surgery to put it back where it belongs. Roy just rolled his eyes. Yeah, right. Garrett made a fart noise through his teeth. Hey, everybody in school is talking about this. Talking about you, Eberhard. Great. They were standing in the hall after homeroom waiting for the first period bell. Garrett said, now they think you're a tough guy. Who does? Why? Roy didn't want to be thought of as a tough guy. He didn't particularly want to be thought of as tough at all, or really thought of it all. He just wanted to blend in quietly and not be noticed, like a bug on a riverbank. They think you're tough, Garrett went on. Nobody's ever slugged a Matheson before. Apparently, Dana had 3 older brothers, none of whom remembered fondly, or who were remembered fondly at Trace Middle School. What'd you put in your apology letter? Dear Dana, I'm sorry I thumped you. Please don't break every bone in my body. Leave me one good arm so at least I can feed myself. Ha, you're so funny, Roy said dryly. Truth was, Garrett was pretty funny. What do you think that gorilla's going to do next time he sees you? He said to Roy. I was you, I'd start thinking about plastic surgery myself so that Dana wouldn't recognize me. Seriously, man. Garrett, I need a favor. What, a place to hide? Try the South Pole. The bell rang and streams of students filled the halls. Roy pulled Garrett aside. There's a tall girl with curly blonde hair. She wears red glasses. Garrett looked alarmed. Oh, don't tell me. Tell you what, you got the hots for Beatrice Leap? That's her name? Roy figured it had been at least 100 years since anyone had named their daughter Beatrice. No wonder she was such a sorehead. What do you know about her? He asked Garrett. Well, I know enough to stay out of her way. She's a major soccer jock, Garrett said, with a major attitude. I can't believe you got the hots for her. I don't even know her, Roy protested. She's hacked off at me for some crazy reason, and I'm just trying to figure out why. Garrett groaned. First Dana Matheson, now Beatrice the bear? Well, you got a death wish text? Tell me about her. What's her story? Not now. We're going to be late for class. Come on, Roy said. Please? Garrett stepped closer, checking nervously over his shoulder. Here's all you need to know about Beatrice Leap, he said in a whisper. Last year, one of the star linebackers for Graham High snuck up from behind and slapped her on the bottom. That was at the Big Cypress Mall, broad daylight. Beatrice chased the guy down and heaved him into the fountain. Broke his collarbone in 3 places. Out for the season. No way, said Roy. Maybe you ought to think about Catholic school. Roy gave a hollow laugh. Too bad we're Methodists. Then convert, dude, Garrett said. Seriously, it's the only way. Officer David... Oh, there's a pause on the story, so it looks like we're switching over to Delinko's story. Officer David Delinko looked forward to getting up early to the scout of the construction site. It was a welcome break from his daily routine, which offered few opportunities for real surveillance. Usually, that was left to the detectives. Although Officer Delinko liked the town of Coconut Cove, he had become bored with his job, which mostly involved traffic enforcement. He had joined the police force because he wanted to solve crimes and arrest criminals. Yet, except for the occasional drunk driver, Officer Delinko rarely got to lock anybody up. The handcuffs clipped to his belt were as shiny and unscratched as the day he joined the force, almost 2 years earlier. Vandalism and trespassing weren't big-time crimes, but Officer Delinko was intrigued by the continuing pattern of mischief at the future site of Mother Paula's All-American Pancake House. He had a hunch that the culprit, or culprits, intended something more serious than juvenile pranks. Since the police chief was getting pressure to stop the incidents, Officer Delinko knew that catching the vandals would be a feather in his cap, and possibly the first step toward a promotion. His long-term career goal was to become a detective. In Mother Paula's case was a chance to show he had the right stuff. On the first Monday after the alligator episode, Officer Delinko set his alarm clock for 5 a.m. He rolled out of bed, took a quick shower, toasted himself a bagel, and headed out for the construction site. It was still dark when he arrived. 3 times he circled the block and saw nothing unusual, except for a garbage truck. The streets were empty. The police radio was quiet as well. Not much happened in Coconut Grove before dawn. Or after dawn, for that matter, Officer Delinko mused to himself. He parked the squad car next to Leroy Branich's work trailer and waited for the sun to rise. It promised to be a pretty morning. The sky looked clear with a rim of pink in the east. Officer Delinko wished he brought the thermos of coffee because he wasn't accustomed to getting up so early. Once he caught himself sagging behind the steering wheel, he slapped himself briskly at his cheeks in order to stay awake. Peering through the fuzzy early morning gray, Officer Delinko thought he saw movement in the open field ahead of him. He flicked on the squad car's headlights, and there, on a grassy mound marked by freshly painted survey stake, stood a pair of burrowing owls. Curly hadn't been kidding. These were the dinkiest owls that Officer Delinko had ever seen, only 8 or 9 inches tall. They were dark brown with spotted wings, whitish throats, and piercing amber eyes. Officer Delinko wasn't a bird watcher, but he was intrigued by the toy-sized owls. For several moments, they stared at the car, their big eyes blinking uncertainly. Then they took off, chattering to each other as they swooped low over the shrub. Hoping he hadn't scared the birds away from their nest, Officer Delinko turned off his headlights. He rubbed his heavy eyelids and propped his head against the inside of the car window. The glass felt cool against his skin. A mosquito buzzed around his nose, but he was too sleepy to swipe at it. Soon he nodded off. The next thing he heard was the radio crackle of the dispatcher's voice, routinely asking for his location. Officer Delinko fumbled for the microphone and recited the address of the construction site. 10-4, the dispatcher said, signing off. Officer Delinko gradually roused himself. The squad car was hot, but oddly it looked darker outside now than when he had first arrived. So dark, in fact, that he couldn't see anything, not even the construction trailer. In a fleeting moment of dread, Officer Delinko wondered if it had already been the next night. Was it possible that he accidentally slept through the entire day? Just then, something smacked against the squad car. Pow! Then came another smack, and another after that. A steady, invisible pounding. Officer Delinko grabbed for his gun, but it wouldn't come out of its holster. The seatbelt was in the way. As he struggled to unstrap himself, the car door flew open, and a white blast of sunlight hit him in the face. He shielded his eyes, remembering that they taught him in the academy, and shouted, "Police officer! Police officer!" Yeah, could have fooled me. It was Curly, the sullen construction foreman. "What's the matter? Didn't you hear me knocking?" Officer Delinko tried to gather his senses. "I guess I fell asleep." "Ah, did something happen?" Curly sighed. "Get out and see for yourself." The patrolman emerged into the glaring daylight. "Oh no," he muttered. "Oh yeah," Curly said. While Officer Delinko had been dozing, somebody had sprayed all the windows of his squad car with black paint. "What time is it?" he asked Curly. 9:30. Officer Delinko let out an involuntary whimper. 9:30. He touched his fingers to the windshield. The paint was dry. "My car," he said despondently. "Your car?" Curly bent down and scooped up an armful of dug-up survey stakes. "Who cares about your stupid car?" he said. And there's another pause in the story. It looks like we're going to get back to Roy. Roy spent the morning with a knot in his stomach. Something had to be done, something decisive. He couldn't spend the rest of the school year hiding from Dana Matherson and Beatrice Leap. Dana could be dealt with later, but Beatrice the bear couldn't wait. At lunchtime, Roy spotted her across the cafeteria. She was sitting with 3 other girls from the soccer team. They looked lanky and tough, though not as formidable as Beatrice. Taking a deep breath, Roy walked over and sat at the same table. Beatrice glared in seething disbelief while her friends regarded him with an amusement and kept eating. "What's your problem?" Beatrice demanded, in one hand with a barbecue pork sandwich suspended between the tray and her sneering mouth. "I think you're the one with the problem," Roy smiled, even though he was nervous. Beatrice's soccer friends were impressed. They set down their forks and waited to see what was coming next. Roy plowed ahead. Beatrice, he began, I've got no idea why you're mad about what happened on the bus. You're not the one who got choked. You're not the one who got punched in the nose. So I'm only going to say this once. If I did something to upset you, I'm sorry. It wasn't on purpose. Evidently, no one had ever spoken to Beatrice so forthrightly, for she appeared to be in a state of shock. Her sandwich remained fixed in midair, the barbecue sauce trickling down her finger. How much do you weigh? How much do you weigh? Roy asked, not unpleasantly. What? Beatrice stammered. Well, I weigh exactly 94 pounds, Roy said, and I'll bet you're at least 105. One of Beatrice's friends giggled, and Beatrice shot her a scowl. Which means you could probably knock me around the cafeteria all day long. But it wouldn't prove anything, Roy said. Next time you've got a problem, just tell me, and then we'll sit down and talk about it like civilized human beings. Okay? Civilized? Beatrice repeated, gazing at Roy over the rims of her glasses. Roy's eyes flickered to her hand, which was now dripping fat globs of barbecue sauce. Soggy chunks of bun and meat were visible between the clenched fingers. She had squeezed the sandwich so ferociously that it had disintegrated. One of the soccer girls leaned close to Roy. Listen, Mouth, you better get out of here while you can. This is so not cool. Roy stood up calmly. Beatrice, are we straight on this? If anything's bothering you, now's the time to tell me. Beatrice the bear dropped the remains of her sandwich on the plate and wiped her hands with a wad of paper napkins. She didn't say a word. Whatever. Roy made a point of smiling again. I'm glad we had this chance to get to know each other a little bit better. Then he walked to the other side of the cafeteria and sat down, alone, to eat his lunch. And here we are with another break in the story. Looks like we're going to be focusing on Garrett this time. Garrett snuck into his mother's office and copied the address of the master enrollment sheet. It cost Roy $1. Roy handed the piece of paper to his mother as they were riding home in the car. I need to stop here, he told her. Mrs. Eberhardt glanced at the paper and said, All right, Roy, it's on our way. She assumed the address belonged to one of Roy's friends and that he was picking up a textbook or homework assignment or something. As they pulled into the driveway of the house, Roy said, This will only take a minute. I'll be right back. Dana Matheson's mother answered the door. She looked a little like her son, which was unfortunate. Dana home? Roy asked. Who are you? I go to school with him. Mrs. Matheson grunted, turned around, and yelled Dana's name. Roy was glad she didn't invite him inside, so he heard heavy footsteps, and Dana himself filled the doorway. He wore long blue pajamas that would have fit a polar bear. A mound of thick gauze hatched by shiny white tape, occupied the center of his piggish face, and both eyes were badly swollen and ringed with purple bruising. Yikes indeed, sir. Roy stood speechless. It was hard to believe that one punch had done so much damage. Dana glared down at him and, in a pinched nasal voice, said, I am not believing this. Don't worry. I just came to give you something. Roy handed him the envelope containing the apology letter. What is it? Dana asked suspiciously. Go ahead and open it. Dana's mother appeared behind him. Who is he? She asked Dana. What's he want? Never mind, Dana fumbled. Roy piped up. I'm the one your son tried to strangle on the bus the other day, and I'm also the one who slugged him. Dana's shoulders stiffened. His mother clucked in amusement. You gotta be kidding. This little twerp is the one who messed up your face? I came to apologize. It's all in the letter. Roy pointed at the envelope clutched in Dana's right hand. Let me see. Mrs. Matheson reached over her son's shoulder, but he pulled away and crumpled the envelope in his fist. Get lost, cowgirl, he snarled at Roy. Me and you will settle up when I get back to school. When Roy returned to the car, his mother asked, Why are those two people wrestling on the porch? The one in the pajamas is the kid who tried to choke me on the bus. The other one, well, that's his mother. They're fighting over my apology letter. Oh, Mrs. Eberhardt thoughtfully watched the strange scene through the car window. I hope they don't hurt each other. They're both rather husky, aren't they? Yes, they are. Can we go home now, Mom? Wow. Interesting chapter. So, a lot seems to be going on. We are now trying to figure out who Beatrice is, other than knowing that she's a little bit tall and strong and enjoys playing soccer, and that she has a problem with Roy. We don't really know much about her, but she seemed to know something about the individual running without the shoes, which Roy was trying to escape the bus to go find. So lots starting to happen. And poor Officer Blinko, I don't think he's very good at his job, falling asleep and waking up with his window spray painted. Kind of funny, though. Anyway, hope you're enjoying the story. Until next time.